entertaining, informative, and educational. Inspiring content that makes a difference.
This is the Maximus Troy Publications Broadcasting Network.
Join the Academy. The Breeders Academy proudly presents Bred to Perfection with Kenny Troiano, a show for serious breeders.
Whether you are looking to create a new strain or simply improve an old one, you have come to the right place.
Daddy, I want more chickens.
Oh, boy.
Now, here's your host, Kenny Troiano.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Bred to Perfection. My name is Kenny Troiano, and this, my friends, is the podcast devoted to helping you become a better breeder and taking your strain to the next level. That's right, my friends. It doesn't matter if you are brand new to breeding or you've been breeding for many years. There is something all of us can do to improve our fowl for future generations.
Warning! This show contains radical ideas that could be considered dangerous.
Okay, welcome to another episode of Bred to Perfection. I'm Kenny Troiano, founder of the Breeders Academy, and I'm here with my wife, Nancy, and my co-host, Frank Bradley. What's going on, guys?
Hey, you guys need some rain out your way?
No.
Sure do.
No.
Yeah. Cross Speed just asked in the comment section if I was ready for the rain. We've been getting hammered since about Wednesday, but we did need it. It was so dry. The streams had dried up. I don't remember a drier summer than this year, which I'm not going to complain. It's been nice, but people with the gardens here in Eastern Kentucky didn't care for the dryness.
Frank, you better hope we don't get rain, because you're coming here next week, and I'm telling you, you do not want rain.
I just hope we don't bring it with us.
Frank's coming here next week, him and Amanda, and we're taking him to Not Scary Farm. So you don't want rain during that time.
No.
That would not be a fun place to be during that event at night in the rain. I couldn't even imagine doing that in the rain. So
that would not be good at all. And the reason we missed the last 2 weeks, me and Amanda finally got COVID. And I'm just glad we got it out of the way, because I said, wouldn't it have been our luck to got COVID right at the time that we was coming out there? See you guys. That would have been terrible.
Did we miss 2 weeks or 1 week?
2 weeks.
Did we miss 2 weeks?
2 weeks, yeah. We've had COVID for 2.5 weeks.
So since we missed 2 weeks, we did do a show today. Everybody's going to hate us because we're not going to do a show next week because Frank's going to be here and we're not going to have time to do it. And then we should be back to normal after that. What do you think, Nance?
Yeah, we'll make it all work. Don't worry about it, guys. We're here for you. Eli's asking if we are planning on going to the Ohio National in November.
We just have so much to do. I don't think we're going to make it.
I meant to ask you guys about that, because I've had several people ask me if we were going to go, and I said earlier I hadn't talked to them about it, because I'm not that far from it.
It'd be nice to go someplace where there's thousands of chickens just to check it out, maybe meet some people, but I do have a lot of things to do. I'm not going to make it this year.
Well, I used to go every chance I got, but I've not been in probably 13 years, something like that. But they're really nice. Always I really enjoyed going to them. Just a variety of different chickens and getting to meet the breeders and everything. So it's fun.
We've went to a number of shows. I used to judge shows, and it was always to participate and meet people, but to also promote our business.
I still would like to go at least once.
Yeah, we may go once.
We've got so much going on in October that we'd have to plan for this next year if possible.
You'd enjoy it. You two would enjoy it. Just the experience alone is worth going for. And the noise you hear when you get there of all the chickens, it's something else, I'll tell you, because there's a lot of chickens there. A lot.
I've seen pictures. Yeah, it's fascinating.
A lot of people have been asking me what's going on with my YouTube channel, where's all the shows, and I put a lot of them back on the website. So there's a handful on YouTube, but we've archived a lot of the podcasts and the live show, the videos on the website. So if you want to see all of them, that's where to go. Even better, and what most people like, is the members roundtable and the masterclass videos. Whenever I do a coaching call with my members, they go on and on how much they love the masterclass videos. As far as the podcasts, we're on every platform. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. Anywhere you listen to a podcast, we're there. YouTube, it tends to be our main platform these days. I'm to the point, Frank, that I don't even do anything on Facebook anymore.
They're calling Facebook anymore the Gen X. That's all for old people. Facebook is. So all the young kids and everything's getting off of it and going over to X and Twitter because a lot of young people, they just don't fool with Facebook anymore.
It's funny you said that because I didn't know that. And I was on a show a couple weeks ago, Shane's show, and he's the one who showed me how to create a membership website, and he helped me get the business going. And he just wrote a book, and out of the 16 or 17 case studies in the book, I'm one of them. And so he interviewed me for his show to promote the book, and we got to talking about that. His kids and his friends' kids are all getting off of Facebook. Facebook is a thing of the past for these guys. But I really don't do that much on Facebook. The only other Facebook page I have is the one for the members. They communicate with each other there. I don't participate too much unless my name is flagged. And I do prefer the members to ask me questions inside the website. That's where they know how to get a hold of me, is inside the website. So that's what that page is for. I was telling Tani the other day that if it wasn't for my business, I wouldn't have Facebook at all. I wouldn't even deal with it. I hardly ever go on it. I don't think Tani goes on it either.
Not much. Facebook is a bunch of commercials nowadays.
Yeah,
I only
they
see
put
one or
ads
two
on it.
friends on it, and the rest of it's ads.
Yeah, you can't watch anything because as soon as you start watching it 30 seconds in, you get an ad.
Yeah.
Then,
Yeah.
that goes off, and then you start watching it again, and then another few seconds, another one pops up. So it's worse than YouTube as far as ads.
Yep.
Way worse.
I've been getting a lot of requests to join the Breeders' Academy, more than usual. And sometimes I'll give them a link, say, hey, if you want to join, go ahead and click this link, and it'll send you to a registration page. And then every now and then I'll send an invite for the website, and most people that get it join. But I've been getting so many requests for the Breeders' Academy that I just went ahead and opened up the registration page. I don't know how long I'll keep it open. I'll leave it open for a little while. So this is a good time to join if you want to join. And I want to welcome all the people that did join recently. I really appreciate it, but the ones I really appreciate most is the returning members. I cherish those, and I'll tell you why. It's because they all know what's on the website. There's no surprises. They know what they're getting. They know what they were missing. The fact that they come back, I really appreciate that. That makes me feel good. Ask Nancy. I get more excited about the members returning than I do new members, which I do appreciate too.
And the veterans that's been in there since you started. There have been
Yeah.
some of them that have been in there for the get-go.
Just go to www.breedersacademy.com. This is an interesting topic. I was doing a lot of guest appearances on other shows, on other chicken shows, dog shows, a lot of different types of shows. And the one thing that I was realizing by going on those shows, and we see this in the chickens too, they're not immune to it, is that they're not always willing to do what it takes to be a breeder. They don't always do what it takes to create a strain, improve a strain, maintain a strain. There's always certain elements of breeding that they want to work around or against. And if you're going to be a breeder and you're going to actually create a family, there's some things you got to accept that you have to do, because you're just not going to get there if you don't. Whether you're a chicken breeder, a gamefowl breeder, a dog breeder, goat breeder, whatever, this is going to be a good show for you. Because I do think there's a big difference between breeding, producing animals, and actually being a breeder and creating a strain. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
I agree, Kenny, because I see the same thing. People think they can go to a program and only do the parts that they think they need to do and leave the others out, but it doesn't work that way. If you're leaving parts out, usually it's the parts that you have to make it successful and make it work. So you have to do it like it's written. It's just like directions, putting something together. If you only do the certain parts you want to, you're not going to do a good job putting it together, and it's the same way with breeding.
And there's some big ones. And we're going to talk about them more, but like they avoid inbreeding, true inbreeding. And what they call inbreeding isn't really inbreeding. They're scared to death of inbreeding. They're scared of the effects of inbreeding. It's a great tool. We're going to talk about that. And then to get away from inbreeding, they think the best way is to keep adding new blood. So they're crossing, they're outcrossing, and they're doing it too much. And then they'll say, I have a bloodline, or I created a strain, when anytime you add new blood, that ceases to be a strain. That ceases to be a bloodline. And they just think it's status quo. To keep the family going, keep them healthy, then crossbreeding, outcrossing, and infusion is a big part of it for them.
Another part of that is they believe they can breed whatever genes they don't want back out. And that's just not possible.
Yeah, because
It
they don't
doesn't work
understand
that way.
genetics. They don't understand the process. I can almost understand it in a way because I was there at one time. That was something Frank and I have been hearing for forever. And if you listen to it without understanding the science, understanding genetics and meiosis and the recombination of genes, you think, oh yeah, I've got some hatch here. I'm going to breed in some acyl, get the benefits of the acyl, and then breed it back out. It's what they call 1/16th infusion. They don't realize that it doesn't work that way. What they're really getting isn't the effects of infusion. It's actually heterosis, hybrid vigor, which is very temporary. It's not inheritable. You can't pass it to the next generation. And when they run into a problem, they just figure, okay, I ran into a problem. I'll just get more blood. It's just a hamster wheel that never ends. We're seeing this in the dogs and the chickens.
I used to think that gamefowl breeders was the worst ones in this scenario that we're talking about. But the more I watch, I think the dogs breeders have caught up with them now. So it's a steady pull either way. But I do believe that the dog breeders have actually come ahead a little bit in that scenario. I really do.
I actually do believe that. I've seen it. Yeah. More than I thought. I actually didn't think it was as bad as that. And it may just be because, Frank, we're influencing more and more people, especially in the chicken world, the gamefowl world. We're influencing more and more people to actually breed true breeds. I'm seeing it more than I've ever seen it. We're actually changing the trend. A lot of these old timers that are clinging to those old wives' tales and the old ways of breeding are starting to look really bad because people are actually seeing the truth. I heard something the other day. Somebody was talking about, it's an old time breeder, I don't want to mention his name, Frank would know who it is, was talking about how he got these birds from somebody, but they were producing light reds and dark reds. Some of them were yellow leg and green leg. And he was saying, when I bred to the yellow legged ones, I got better fowl. So we bred those, we made a strain out of those. And he didn't understand like sex-linked genes. What he was dealing with was just sex linkage. Those traits, performance, behaviors, whatever you want to attach to it, aren't associated to color of feather or color of leg. They're not connected in any way. But he felt that they were. That if I bred to the dark reds and the yellow legs, I was going to get a better performance. It doesn't work that way, and we know that now. And so I always wonder, what are people thinking when they hear this, especially after listening to us? And they believe it. They actually do believe it, Frank. That's the way it works.
Yeah. A long time there, it was like I really didn't know I was doing it, but I was trying to push it on people the way that I do it. And then finally it come to me, and I said, it's like politics. Your vote's the only one that counts, so why argue about it? Okay?
Yeah.
Lead by example. When I was working in the public, I was a manager at a GM dealership, and I always lead by example. I didn't say do this, do that. They see me do it and get in and roll my sleeves up and do it, and they gathered in too. A person has to lead that way and lead by example. Now, if I sat on my butt, I would have not got no more out of them than what I put forth, because you're not doing it, we're not going to do it. But when you show them that a process works and how good the turnout is on it, I think that's the best tool that we can use. Then explain it to them, and that opens their eyes up real. Just to sit down and say blah, 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 it don't really work as good as here's the finished product. Oh, okay, tell me how you done that then. But I learned a long time ago, Kenny and Nancy, you can take a horse to water, but you cannot force him to drink. It's got to be them to do it. And I've learned that over time. I go into the group sort of reading the comments to get an idea of how they see breeding. And that makes me understand them more to where I can explain my case better to them, I guess you could say. But it does help.
I think when you're talking about old timers and their old wives' tales and things like that, they raised their chickens how dad, uncle, grandpa had shown them how to raise chickens. And I don't believe genetics were talked about in their circles in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. There were some tight-knit circles where they knew exactly what they were doing. But it's like what you said, Frank, we got to lead by example. Basically, what we do here, we teach and we show them a different way of looking at how to breed your chickens. And eventually things will change. I'm already seeing the language changing throughout the gamefowl community and even the chicken community and even the dog community. I'm seeing different things change. I'm hearing the Adam and Eve terminology and things like that.
Yeah.
According to so,
Yeah.
and that's a good thing. I appreciate that we've got listeners that are choosing to learn from what we have to teach.
10, 15 years ago, if we had got out in public and talked like this, they'd have stoned us to death. It would have been so critical. But over time, people seen the finished product. Okay, yeah, that does make sense now. They put the two of them together and they see it works and it makes believers out of them. And I can't be critical of those type of people because I'm the same way. You want me to believe it? Show me. Prove it to me. Don't tell me, but show me. Teach me. That's how I run. So I can't be critical of people that way because I'm the same way, really.
No, all we can do is what we're doing is get the word out. And sometimes it can be repetitious. I can cover a topic, and there's certain things about that topic that are very relatable to many of the other topics that we cover. So it'll sound repetitious at the time, but when it comes down to it, breeding is breeding. When you think about the elements of breeding, it all works. It all ties into each other. So I could talk about outcrossing or crossing, and we start talking about inbreeding and line breeding. There's elements of it that relate to each other. So sometimes we can sound repetitious, but I'm okay with that if it's what gets it to sink into them and make them think.
That's how I'm
okay with it. So as long as we keep doing what we're doing, we get the word out, we're getting more and more members in the Breeders' Academy all the time, I think it is changing the trend. I think eventually we're going to be in good shape if we keep going the way we're going.
The thing I'd like to say about that in reference to repetition, we don't always have the same people watching our shows from week to week. I'm seeing some new people in here tonight that I hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
So I don't have any problems with repetition. McKinney, you were going to talk about, I'm leading on to the next topic. And you always say this word, and I hate that you always incorporate this word, essential, because I cannot say it properly. Questions for prospective breeders.
Essential.
Okay, there you go.
Essential.
Using that word. Here, take it. Do you have what it takes? Is that one of the questions you ask yourself?
Yeah. And it can mean a lot of different things. But the first thing I have is, do you have the money? Because this isn't a cheap hobby. Are you willing to put in the effort? Because it's going to take a lot of time. And it's not just something you do once in a while. It's every day, Frank. And then you got the commitment. We as chicken breeders know that every day those birds have to be taken care of. Every day they have to be fed and watered. And then you got breeding season. Now all of a sudden you got the baby chicks, which just adds to it. Yeah, are you willing to do what it takes to breed a proper strain and keep them going?
Forget your lifestyle of long vacations and trips and leaving home. And you sacrifice a lot to have chickens.
Yeah.
I have over the years. I know you guys have. It's very tough to have chickens. And on a comment here a while back, I said, us chicken breeders sacrifice so much to have our birds in our life. And people was like, oh, it's family first. Yeah, that's all good and stuff. But bet you $1 if they've got chickens, they have missed family get-togethers, reunions, and stuff like that. Family does come first. I put my family over chickens any day. But chickens have taken me away from being with my family in the past. You're right, Kenny. It's a commitment that you have to break down and say, am I willing to put the money in them that I need? Because feed, you just can't feed them just average old feed. If you want to get the fullest out of them and do it right, it's going to cost you some money just on feed alone.
I know I'm asking a lot of Frank to come here and visit with us. I know the kind of burden that is. And I appreciate that he's willing to come here because I would have to do maybe the same thing he's doing. I'd have to find someone to take care of him while I'm gone. That's why we keep everything to a 3-day trip usually.
I have to stay home and take care of the chickens.
Sometimes if it's a longer than 3 days.
Yeah.
And even if it's somebody I trust to take care of them, I still can't help but worry. Is a pen going to blow over?
Yeah.
Did a roost pole fall down? Did a predator get into my yard? There's always something that you're worrying about. And it is a worry. We've got a lot of time, a lot of money in our birds, and we love our chickens. So we're very protective of them. And really protecting them against just predators alone is a full-time job. So there's a lot that goes with it, just besides the learning all about breeding, learning all about chickens, especially if you're new for them. There's a lot to consider. And do I have what it takes to have chickens? Because it's a big, huge responsibility.
And the biggest part of this list that I wrote down, and we're going to talk about it more, do you have what it takes to raise chickens or to breed chickens? That's the bigger question. Education. It's about, do you have the knowledge? You might have some of the skills. You might have some of the experience. But without that knowledge, that experience doesn't mean a whole lot. Because you could have the experience and you have some experience doing it, but you could be doing it wrong. So this is where the education comes into play.
I just saw on Facebook where somebody posted a picture of their hen, and this is a backyard person. It's not a breeder. They've got their babies, their chickens are their babies. And she said, one of my hens are losing a bunch of feathers, and I don't understand why. She's the only one losing feathers. What's wrong with my hen? And that goes to education. She did not have the education or the knowledge enough to know that this is molting season.
Frank, that's a
And
lack of
this is what
knowledge
they-
and education.
Yeah,
Lack
yeah,
of
that-
knowledge, education, and experience. That's lacking. Yeah.
I sent Kenny a post there the other day out of a group. Somebody posted a pic. I asked a question, said, all my chickens are getting naked. They're losing their feathers. What's wrong? Help, please. So I knew they're brand new to chickens.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was like, man, they've got a long road ahead of them.
I think it's cute.
We all started there.
Yeah.
Just think about it. You don't know anything about the molt on chickens. And they start doing it. You're thinking, oh, God, was it something I done? Did I feed them something that caused them to lose their feathers? But if you think about it, this is how we have to do. We've got dogs. We've got cats. We've got cattle. We've got chickens. So we're 10 times of what somebody that races cars or plays golf or something of that.
Somebody who lives in
far
a
as living.
condo in the city that doesn't even have to mow their own yard. The
Right.
freedoms that they have, yes, is awesome. But yeah, you're right. It's not just chickens. It's if you raise cattle, if you raise goats,
Any animal.
anything like that, you've got a big commitment. Another thing that if somebody is just starting to get into chickens or anything else, whether it be dogs or goats, turkeys, anything like that, they need to check with their zoning in their area to make sure that they have the proper zoning for what they want to do in their backyard. And it sucks because this is your property and you're paying for it. And yet there are still some laws and regulations that you have to go by. And it's really sad for some who go ahead and get their chickens that they love and oops, I got a rooster, and you love your little rooster. And then the neighbors complain and you have to get rid of your favorite little rooster that's just full of character. So know beforehand before you get into it.
We're talking about being naive. And I remember when I first started, when I was a kid, I'll never forget this. I still remember this to this day. You know how when you like wet the ground and they go in there and they dust themselves and get themselves into the dirt and fluff their feathers and get all the dirt in their feathers? I remember running over there and chasing them off. Stop it. You're going to ruin your feathers. I remember that to this day. That's how new I was. I thought they were going to ruin their feathers. I didn't know they were doing that for the health of their feathers.
I had a family member that didn't know that the eggs were soft when they was first laid. And then as they cool, they harden. He thought the eggs was hard inside the body. And I said, no, because Dad's hens, when I was a kid, they'd lay an egg and I'd run to them real fast and I'd get them and I'd mash them a little bit and leave my thumbprint in the egg while it was still warm. Then it would cool my thumbprint when Dad would get on to me for ruining the eggs like that. But this family member had chickens all his life. He even had Gamefowl for 25, 30 years. And he goes, Frank, I know you're wrong, because he said, Mom would fix them in the sink. And he said, the eggs would be hard when she was cleaning them out of the chicken. I said, yeah, but the chicken's body had cooled down to the room temperature. Therefore, the egg hardened on the inside of the body. And he still wouldn't have it. So I went to Wikipedia, looked it up, showed it to him where it explained it. And he said, oh, they'll put anything on the computer. He still would not believe it. He still would not believe it. It's difficult. I could only imagine being in that situation and just starting from where I am right now and not know anything at 54 years old and just starting with something I had no idea what about. That would be scary. It would be.
What's even scarier is the people that don't have the knowledge and experience joining up with someone who thinks they do, but they get everything wrong. So you can imagine the information he's passing off to these new people. Then they carry this with them for so long thinking it's right. And then it's hard for them to get past that. They'll find somebody like us who I feel like we give out really good information, but they can't see past that. They don't understand what we're saying or believe what we're saying because they've been told something else for so long.
The worst injustice ever done is somebody tell you how to do something and you not research it on yourself. You just take
That's
the word
true.
for it.
Yeah.
And I was terrible for that. And I learned a long time ago as I was starting to mature a little bit. Even though somebody tells me something and I trust them 1,000% and I'm not knowledgeable on that subject, I'm still going to research it. If me and Kenny tell you something, research it.
Yep.
Do your own research on it. Find out for sure. If anybody told me anything on something that I wasn't familiar with or I'd never heard of it before, I didn't tell them, oh, you're wrong. I researched it. But today, people, if they've never heard of it, if they've never seen it, it doesn't exist in their book. They won't even research it.
I can imagine what people are going through listening to us. because we talk about things nobody talks about. They don't even go where we go. They are so deep in the old wives' tales and superstitions, it's not even funny. When they hear words like polygenics, meiosis, recombination, gene frequency, gene flow, genetic drift, they don't know how to relate to what they're doing. They've never heard it before. And I agree with Frank. Whenever we use these terms, whenever we talk about these things, do your research. You'll see what we're talking about. It'll help you understand it more. Or just join the Breeders' Academy because all the information's there. But I know what I'm talking about. When everybody is talking about, like Nancy was saying, infusing this, they think they're bringing it in and bringing it back out. I can think of a number of things that just shows it's not true. And we talk about it all the time. Again, repetition, meiosis, recombination of genes, distribution of the gametes. And then you look at polygenics and you got population distribution, breeding to the highest intensity versus the low intensity. The difference between qualitative traits and quantitative traits, understanding how that works. These are the kind of things that only help you understand what makes up the bird and the genetic factors, but it changes everything you do, especially when it comes to selection culling.
It's a great tool for breeding. You cannot breed it in a correct manner without using just what Kenny mentioned. And another one, Kenny, is recessive traits. People saying they're getting peacock fowls from straight-headed birds. It's impossible. It's confusion is what it is. I know a lot of times they think the bird's cleaned out. She's not. She's straight-headed. They mate her with a straight-headed rooster. She's not cleaned out. She'd been mated with a pea-headed. If they get a pea-headed out, they think it was from the two straight cones, but it's impossible. It can't be done.
I'm telling you, there's a lack of knowledge out there that's just holding people back. I don't want to say just in a different era. Things have changed, though. We grew up, Frank and I both grew up the way everybody's talking today, and we understand where they're coming from, but we know more now. Trust me, we know a lot more. And it can change everything you do. It can change from the way you select, the way you cull, the way you breed them, the way you continue the family, whether you add outside blood or don't. It could change everything just by understanding a handful of things. Someone was telling me a while back that experience without knowledge is misdirected. I agree. That's what I was saying earlier is you can have all the experience in the world. And that's what I hear all the time. Everybody wants to shy away from science. They say it's all about the experience. But if you don't have the knowledge and understand how everything works, that experience means nothing.
I've been trying to figure how I would say this, but if somebody give me chickens and they said you can't breed these chickens, you can only add blood to them when they start going downhill. I can't breed in the way that we need to make a true family, what I'm saying. The only way that you can breed is add blood.
Then you're going to continue to add blood all the time, and you're never going to get there.
Or you can go buy them from somebody else. I'd go buy them from somebody else. When those went downhill, go buy some more. I'd never just keep adding blood to them that way because you're doing the same thing. It's virtually the same thing, and it's easier. You just go buy the chickens because when you add blood to them, you might as well went and bought chickens off somebody else because you've changed them. You've got different chickens there in your yard once you add blood.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. This show was brought to you by the Breeders' Academy, where we will help you to increase your knowledge of breeding, advance your skills as a breeder, and help you to improve the quality and performance of your fowl. As a member, we'll provide you with the roadmap that you will need to create a true family or strain. I urge you to check it out. You've got nothing to lose, and you can cancel at any time. You also have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Simply go to www.breedersacademy.com to sign up.
The Breeders' Academy will not only change the way you think about breeding, but improve the way you breed your fowl.
I hope to see you there. So let's get started.
I've been listening to more and more dog breeders and listening to how they breed. They do what they call inbreeding and line breeding. They blend them all into one, they think. They're not inbreeding or line breeding, they're in and inbreeding. But if you really take apart what they're doing, it's basically the 5/8, 3/8 method. So they do something that looks like line breeding, but it's not really line breeding, it's in and in because they're breeding like uncle to niece and aunt to nephew. And cousin to cousin, and close as they get is half brother, half sister, which doesn't work either, not for the reasons they say. And then they do that for a while, then they bring in blood from the outside because they feel like they got to bring in blood to refresh them all the time. They're getting too close. And they're just getting themselves more and more in trouble. They don't realize, and they call it scatterbreeding. I think they're scatterbreeding all the time. It dawned on me that the way they're describing their breeding programs is basically that 5/8, 3/8 we were hearing about for a while there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or they've got two lines. Say one's a mug, one's a brown and red. They say this is a family, this is a family. They in and inbreed as they go. They line breed. And then when they start going downhill, they put the two of them together and breed them back each side 3/4. And that's how they keep the families going. And they think they've got a pure family then.
And I've heard a little bit about that, but most people are outcrossing. Outcrossing is a major part of their breeding program. Anytime you add new blood, I don't care what animal it is, whether it's dog, chickens, gamefowl, whatever. Anytime you add new blood, you start it completely over. You recombinate the genes, change the gene frequency.
And 9 times out of 10, the traits that you love those birds for, you just spread away from. You bred them out. They're gone. History. Totally different strain now. Totally different strain.
Let me say this, guys. When some believe that they have been able to get rid of some genes, like they crossbred and, okay, I've got all these new great genes, and the ones that I wanted to get rid of, I no longer see. The illusion is that they're hidden. They're still there, but they're hidden. But they believe that they're completely gone. And that's why they believe that this type of system works for them. Also, I wanted to say, when you were talking about people that need to go do their own research, I have a lot of respect for people, and I've seen this firsthand. Kenny was on a show at one time, and he was talking about the things that he believes in breeding and what happens when you crossbreed and things like that. And this person was listening to him, and he wasn't arguing about what Kenny was saying. He was just listening. And then he goes, okay, I'm going to have to go and do my own research with that. And I'm like, I really respect that person because, for one, he's open to listen to what Kenny has to say. And 2, he's going to go do his own research and make up his mind on what works for him.
Yeah, I'm not reinventing the wheel. Everything I'm talking about, you can find online for the most part. And there's many things about the Breeders' Academy, material inside the Breeders' Academy that we teach on the outside. The only thing we don't teach fully is the Founders Program, which is the best breeding method I've ever seen.
But
and nothing matches
We even do parts of it.
Sometimes.
Too, Kenny. Yeah, sometimes we do parts of it. We don't do the critical parts, but we still do some parts like back crossing.
We don't do it in order either.
Station.
There's a specific order you need to do.
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's the thing. If you don't do it in order, then it doesn't work. If you're just everywhere with it, or if you flip-flop it, or you just do the parts you want, it's not going to work for you. What Nancy was talking about with the hidden traits, the adding blood, it's like this. You take a good, tight, inbred family, and you've got this gene pool is a bloom the size of a penny. Okay, and you start outcrossing and adding blood to it. Pour water in it each time you outcross, Then next thing you know, you've got this big old beach ball bloom that's all squishy and everything. Finding the traits that you once loved about those birds are almost virtually impossible to find.
That is the dark side of breeding. And then, so I've got a question for both of you, because I believe that sometimes when you do some crossbreeding, you're thinking that you're breeding out the ones that you don't want anymore, when in fact they're actually hidden. And then, Kenny, you had said something about how sometimes you do some crossbreeding and you lose traits, never be seen again. Can you explain the difference between the two? What's happening when you lose traits to never be seen again? And what's happening when those traits are still there, but they're hidden?
Okay, that's pretty broad. Let me start here. When they're infusing blood, what they're doing, and this is a good example, and Frank will know exactly what I'm talking about. A lot of people relate to this. Let's say they have an American game. We'll just call them hatch. And this is a big one now, probably bigger than I've ever seen it. They think that they can breed in the acyl, and the acyl blood is going to improve it. So they breed in the acyl, and then they breed the offspring back to their family, their hatch, or whatever they have. A lot of times they don't have the family, so they're breeding to what they think is hatch. And they just keep doing that until they feel like they only have 1/16 of the acyl. Now, phenotypically, they can look very much American game, but if you look close enough, you'll still see that acyl influence. All the recessives that acyl introduce are always going to be there. Whether they're expressed or not, they're always going to be there, waiting to be expressed someday. There could be some hidden genes like lethal genes that are just waiting to show up. All they have to do is match the right bird and you've got a serious problem on your hand. And sometimes those won't express themselves until a handful of generations down when you have all kinds of offspring all carrying it. And all of a sudden your birds aren't hatching anymore. Or they're dying within a week or so after they hatch. Or they create a gene that prevents them from breeding mechanically properly. So all kinds of things can happen. So anytime you think you're introducing blood that you think is beneficial, you're also introducing a lot of detrimental genes, deleterious genes, all are harmful, that will never go away. And you change the family forever. So the idea of adding blood and breeding it back out to back where they will never be what they were. They'll be completely different than they were no matter how much you breed in that new blood, because they've just completely changed forever. It's a flawed system. I understand why they think it works. I understand why they think they need it. Certain stages of the Founders Program, which fixes all that and prevents them from having to add the outside blood to get the refreshing that they think they need. So that whole system is flawed. Although it looks like it works, it doesn't. And meiosis shows that it doesn't. Quantitative inheritance shows that it doesn't work. Gene flow shows that it doesn't work. They're just misguided. And then you have outcrossing. If I understand the question right, you're just adding new blood. You're just changing them. What was the question again? Because I forgot what it was.
Outcrossing itself, what does it do just to that adding blood itself?
No, what I'm saying is you have some genes that will be hidden. And how come some are hidden?
Oh, okay.
And how come some are just completely disappear?
Yeah.
Okay, let's put it this way. If they're carrying a dominant trait, it has to be expressed. You just don't know if it's pure. And to find out if it's pure, you have to test it. Meaning you have to breed the dominant to a recessive and see what it expresses in the offspring. So anytime you want to see if a particular dominant trait is pure, you have to test it. Because the dominant's there, it's going to be expressed. That means the recessives are hidden. Is that what you're asking me?
Yes, but you also said some traits are never to be seen again.
Okay, let's say you have a dominant trait you want to preserve or keep. You bred in blood, has a recessive, the recessive is expressed. The minute you breed two recessives together, you eliminate the dominant. This is an easy one because we all know what that means. You say you want the pea comb, but two straight combs that really look good. So you breed them together. You get offspring, they're all straight comb. They're all single comb. So you go generations because they're really good. You keep breeding those straight combs together, you lose your pea comb. The only way you're going to get that pea comb in there is to add new blood. Start all over again. But not only you adding that pea comb in there, now you're adding all the other genes he has hidden in there too. So there's a big package of genetics that comes in from that outside bird that you may not want. Most likely you don't want.
I was telling a guy just that. He bred two straight-headed birds together, and he said, I've yet to get a pea head. And I said, the only way you're ever going to get it is to breed it back in.
Yeah.
And he goes, I was getting them before. I said, you thought you was getting them before. But once you set that two straight-headed mother and father, you're never going to see that pea comb again.
And we have a method for that now. And we call it gene shopping. I create a whole new program for it. I introduced it to my members, and we talked about it, how it works. It's not the way you would think it would work. Most people wouldn't guess it. You'd have to see how it's put together. And I'm cleaning it up, and I'm going to put the whole thing on the website here pretty soon for my members. But we introduced it to them recently. And I've been doing coaching calls, and one of the things I've been asking my members when we're doing the coaching calls, hey, by the way, what do you think of that gene chopping? And they're like, I love it. It's the greatest thing ever. It makes so much sense because a lot of people think, oh, you just keep adding new blood with the birds that have what you want, and eventually you'll get there. This gene chopping, the way it's put together, it's much different than that.
And the other thing, he goes, my birds don't have no pea comb blood in them, and they're straight-headed. And I said, you'll never know. You're never going to show the pea head.
That pea comb is gone. It no longer exists.
No, I meant in the ancestry.
In the past.
In the past.
Yeah,
He
okay.
goes, no, they're 100% straight comb. They've never been no pea-headed blood ever added to them.
That's what you think.
He's half right. Now they don't.
Yeah, now they don't.
Now they're a
But
straight comb
before-
family.
It's like this. I could take a bird right now, take a straight head and pea comb, breed them, get pea comb and straight comb. That next breeding, put two straight heads together again, never see that pea comb ever again. So people that says, oh, my birds are 100% straight comb, they are at the time. But before, they could have had pea-headed blood added to them at that time and coming pea-headed.
Yeah, that's the difference, because if you have a dominant trait, if they have it, they have to express it. Okay, you just don't know if it's pure. But if they're expressing a recessive trait, they're pure for that trait. They are pure for that trait. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If they're matched up to another bird's carrying the same trait, they're going to pass that trait.
So that gave him something to think about. He goes, now I think about that, you're probably right, because I never really thought of it that way.
Yeah. The dark side of breeding, which shouldn't be because it's a great tool, is inbreeding. And we talked a little bit about it. But you cannot create a strain, improve a strain, maintain a strain without some inbreeding. Robert Bakewell is one of my heroes. Okay, he's the father of selective breeding. Even Darwin studied Robert Bakewell. We wouldn't have all the different breeds and strains and varieties we have today if it wasn't for Robert Bakewell and his commitment to inbreeding. Actual inbreeding. We're talking about brother and sister matings. So if you have a particular chicken that's a particular breed, inbreeding had to occur to make that breed exist. If you have a particular dog, the Malinois, what do they call them, Malinois? Inbreeding had to take place for that breed to exist. Otherwise, you get all kinds of variation. And people to this day are trying to maintain breeds, continue breeds, improve breeds, and they're trying to avoid inbreeding at all costs. Fixation has to take place. Without fixation, you don't have a breed, you don't have a strain.
If they reproduce themselves, they've been inbred and bred right.
That's right.
If they've not been inbred, they're not going to reproduce themselves. And this is one thing I can't get past, Kenny. People are so against. I said, why are you so against inbreeding? It's not like we're inbreeding. You do it for a short period of time, and then you spend the rest of the time working away from it. But here's what gets me. They're like, oh, brother to sister, that's too taboo for me. That's just against everything. So father and daughter is all right. You breed father and daughter, that's not taboo.
A lot of people are against that too.
Yeah, but in the wild, it happens every day of every second in every species that's out there. Now, here's the question. Are they good enough to survive? Are they defect-free? Can they survive their environment? That's the main question right there when it comes to that. You still got to pick the best of the best when you inbreed.
If there's any detrimental defects or deleterious genes and you inbreed, yeah, they're going to express. That shows your family is flawed. Now, chickens, we can breed a lot of animals and test them through breeding. Dogs, they can do genetic tests, DNA tests, and see if those deleterious genes are there. And if the other dog carries the same deleterious genes, you just don't breed them together. You never breed a defect or a deleterious gene to another animal with the same gene. That's all you need to do. If you have a bird or a dog with a fault and you want to breed it, you just make sure that the animal that you're breeding it to doesn't carry the same thing, and you can work around it over time. If you're avoiding inbreeding and you're just adding new blood from time to time, you're not a breeder. You're just producing animals.
It's the best tool in the breeding program, and it's short-lived. It's the best tool, but as far as inbreeding goes itself, Kenny already said it once, but it's so important. They cannot reproduce themselves and the traits they have without actually inbreeding.
Yeah.
It's impossible. The Labradoodles that the neighbors got down the road, they're just hybrids. That's all they are. They're not a true breed. They're classified as a true breed, but they're just crosses is basically what they are. She bred some of them, and you'd had to see them. They were short-legged, long-haired, short-haired. They didn't even look like they were siblings. And Amanda's like, why'd they all come out like that for?
Yeah.
I said, because they're not a true family.
If you see variation in offspring, then there's a lot of genetic diversity within the family, mean influence of outside blood. If you want predictability, uniformity, consistency, predictability, repeatability, the only way you're going to get that is if you inbreed, if you use some inbreeding, and not line breeding the way they talk about. But there's a right way to line breed and there's a wrong way to line breed. We actually teach the right way to line breed inside the Breeders' Academy, but line breeding and inbreeding have to happen for you to create a strain, maintain a strain, and improve a strain. And I just see so many people working so hard against it.
We don't consider it a method.
It's a
telling
tool.
you, it's a tool. Now, I can say this and get by with it. It's not giving anything away. I could go to Kenny's house, select one of his cocks and one of his hens, brother and sister, and inbreed them. And there may be a couple culls that pop up. Maybe. They might all be really good. Might not be a cull in either one of them. Same with mine. You come and get mine, the inbred family. You breed them. They all come out really good. Maybe a couple culls. Now you go take two hybrids that somebody's got and you breed them together. It's never been cleaned up. That's never been made a true family. And you're going to get some of the hideous, most nastiest looking things. You're going to get some mediocre fowl. And then you're going to get some really great fowl. If you breed enough for a good selection, you're just going to get all across the board what you're going to get. But birds that's been made a true family, the way the Founder program molds them and makes them, you get very few even culls. You do get culls, but you get very few if you do it right.
Yeah. Probably the biggest issue when it comes to the dark side of breeding would be culling. Now, it can be a problem with chicken breeders, but not to the level I see with dog breeders. And I understand it, but there's ways to avoid the kind of culling that they're afraid of. Like we talk about all the time, testing, the DNA testing that they can do. They can avoid a lot of culling just by doing those tests. If you want to avoid the culling, then I suggest that you do the test and pay the money.
If I got one that was deformed, crippled, whatever, I would just do my job and work through it. So I understand how that goes. But even with chickens in the beginning, I had a hard problem with it.
I don't enjoy it.
No, I don't want to take anything's life. But I finally come to the realization of it's better off and it doesn't need to be bred. It doesn't need to be more of it in this world. And a lot of these really good breeders, commercial breeders, they'll breed thousands upon thousands of chickens to just find a couple and cull thousands of them at the end of the day, just to find what they're looking for. And it's the goal. If you're not culling, you're not doing your breeding the way you do because you're feeding more culls than you're feeding good chickens.
If you're not willing to cull like you need to, then don't breed. Because you're not creating anything. You're not maintaining anything. You're not improving anything. Culling has to happen. Now, like I said, there's ways to minimize it. There's ways to eliminate it. But you got to be willing to do it. And if you're not, then don't get into the breeding game because you're not going to be a breeder. Culling is part of the process, no matter what animal you're breeding. You just got to accept it.
Let me ask you this question, guys. Wouldn't you say you have to be really assured that your Adam and Eve, and I'm talking chickens and dogs, actually anything, is exactly what you want, has the traits that you want before you even breed? Because Joseph here is saying they end up with major lines of German Shepherds with bad joints and 7 years old. They have hip dysplasia, and collies with blindness issues around 8 years old. It's because they have bad early selection.
Let me say something real quick. Yes, you got to pick your seed animals, your seed fowls, seed dogs, whatever, wisely and carefully. And inbreeding can express those things if you're not testing for them and making sure, especially when it comes to dogs, you can test for it. Chickens, you just breed them, you eat your culls. But understand this. Infusion, outcrossing, and crossbreeding are the methods that are introducing those genes in the first place.
That makes a lot of sense.
I would say this too. If I was breeding dogs, I want the very best seed animals that I could get.
Yeah.
The very best. Chickens, not so much.
Right.
Do I want the best chickens that I can get? Yes. I'm going to get there faster. But can I start a family from chickens that's lacking? Yeah, you can.
I heard someone say recently that the reason with chickens, we can inbreed them so much because they can handle the inbreeding. And that dogs are different because he says the chickens have more chromosomes and more genes than dogs. Guess what? Do your homework. They have the same amount of chromosomes and the same amount of genes as a chicken.
You're right. They do. Yeah, a chicken's close to a reptile, but you're right. And I'm telling you guys, with the breeding my mom done, and I've done over the years with dogs, a little inbreeding is not going to kill you.
No.
I mean, I've done it before. I know the aspects of it. Yeah, are you going to get some bad stuff out of them? Yeah, because back then we didn't have the tools of testing stuff like we did then, but it still wasn't that bad. And Kenny's said it earlier. If you're not inbreeding, you're not making a family. You're just raising whatever it is. You're just raising dogs or raising chickens. You're not breeding. I can promise you that.
Any breeder with any animal can handle the amount of inbreeding that we're promoting. If they can't, then there's some serious issues going on. Then you're breeding the wrong animals.
I was reading an article there the other day, and it was dog breeder. And they was saying that inbred dogs didn't live as long. They lived half that life, and they had health problems. But that is selection, guys.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with inbreeding, nothing whatsoever. It's all about the selection once you inbreed.
Yep.
That's the problem. And I'm going to say it. I'm not going to say who it is. It was a PhD that was saying it. And I was like, oh, my goodness gracious, Lord.
Oh.
And never bred a dog in his life.
As a breeder, it's your choice. Are you going to breed a flawed animal and then complain that they produce flawed offspring? Or are you going to pick the best animals possible and do the kind of breeding that you need to do to create the family, maintain the family, and improve the family down the line? There's a big difference. Are you going to just produce animals or are you going to create a family? It's one or the other, guys. Inbreeding has to be a part of that. I'm being very careful because I don't want to get too into it because I have so much more I want to cover before we're done. Because we're going to have 2 shows for inbreeding. We're going to have a public version for the inbreeding, and we're going to have one for the members because we're going to go deeper. And we're going to associate it with the Founders Program. So inbreeding is a big part of it, and it just drives me nuts. I watch people really put down inbreeding and make it sound like it's the worst thing you can ever do. And they use the coefficient of inbreeding as their proof, or they think they understand the genetics and they don't. It all comes down to understanding the genetics of your particular animal, the genetic factors, how they interact when you breed them together, understanding how to select them properly, understand the breed, of course. Like us, for chickens, it's easy. We just breed them. Whatever they produce, that's the test. But you can only do the test properly and select properly if you understand the genetic factors. When it comes to dogs, goats, and some other animals, especially mammals, you could actually do DNA tests. Man, I'd love to have that option. Okay.
I would too.
I would save myself a lot of time and effort and money if I could do that kind of test. Either they're cheap and they don't want to spend that money for the test, or they're lazy. You can avoid a lot of the problems that are associated with inbreeding by doing those tests. But the inbreeding still has to be done.
Yeah, it's like this, and this is my opinion, the way I look at it, and I think Kenny's too. If I've got seed animals that I'm starting with that can't handle inbreeding, then you need to get some more animals that there's something wrong there. Yeah. But you can take the Founders Program, which is the best breeding program that I believe that's on the face of the earth, and know it in and out, but without being able to select properly, you're never ever going to get where you need to go. You've got to have those 2 put together. You got to be able to select the right animals or mammals or reptiles or bee or whatever it is you're breeding chickens. You've got to be able to select those individuals that's going to take you forward rather than backwards.
Yeah, you can start with the best animals, like he said, have the best program, but unless you know what to select and which to cull, you're going to go in the wrong direction. And I don't care how pure or how good the family is, every now and then you're going to get variation. One of the things I was going to talk about that kind of associates what we're talking about now is not all animals are worth breeding, and that's what people don't understand. They think that everything that's produced should be worthy of breeding. They either breed to all of them, or they look at the offspring and they see some faults in some of them and they think, oh, I guess it doesn't work. I see some with problems. Not all the animals that you're going to produce are worthy of breeding. You need to figure out which ones are and which ones need to be culled, because there's only a small percentage of offspring that you're going to produce that have the capabilities to move your family forward. Not all of them. So you got to be very selective. You got to know what to select for.
That's hand in hand. There's a lot that has to add up to success in any type of breeding. I don't care what kind of breeding it is, but it's all got to be lined up in perfect order for the success at the end of it. If you're not selecting right, if your program's not up to par, if it's not a full program like the Founders Program, if there's parts left out, you don't do it right, your education and knowledge on breeding, there's a lot that you have to go through and a lot of hoops you got to jump through to be successful. And I think you're right, Kenny. I think a lot of people are just not prepared to go that distance.
And the selection process is huge. We're talking about the health of the bird, health of the family, and the breed characteristics. So there's a lot of things you need to consider when you do your selection. It's just not one trait. I think people fall into a trap when they're worried about one trait, when they accept or tolerate other traits, or they'll tolerate a defect because he has one particular trait, or they'll deal with birds that have a lot of illnesses because he has one particular trait. So it's the whole package. I'm a complete package kind of guy.
Yeah, they say, I'm happy with the birds that I've got. They look good, but they're sickly. They're mean. You can't pick one up without it biting you and trying to hit you. And they're coming real small. I think I'm just going to add blood to them or get rid of them. It's selection. It's nothing else but selection.
I was talking to a breeder one time and he said, yeah, every now and then my birds will get small. I'll just add new blood and boom, their size are back where they were. Fixed. They didn't know they could select their way there, but they think by adding new blood, getting hybrid vigor, fixes everything. No, it's going to be very temporary.
That's a old wives' tale on inbreeding, too. I don't want to go back on the inbreeding, but you just brought that up. That's an old wives' tale. I've heard that a million times. Oh, if you inbreed them, they'll come small. Or they'll come big, one or the other. No, it's selection. You've either used too big of a hen or too small of a hen or too big of a cock or too small of a cock. It's matching the size up on the pair that you're breeding. It's nothing to do with inbreeding. Inbreeding has no correlation with the size of your birds.
And then we get into, I want to say this is the dark side of breeding only because most people aren't willing to do it. They're not willing to take the time to learn the genetics. of their particular animal, the genetic factors of the traits that they carry, so that they could select properly. They know a lot about monogenic traits, like dominant, recessive. They understand if they look at a trait sometimes whether it's dominant or recessive, but they don't know the results they're supposed to get when they bring them together, like we were talking about earlier. Hardly anybody understands polygenic traits and how most of the traits that we deal with are polygenic. We call it the form and function trait. So anything that has to do with the form of the bird or the function of the bird, or the performance of the bird, those are all polygenic. Those are all considered different. They're all selected different. They're all dealt with different.
Plastic traits.
Yeah, actually they are. Monogenic traits, it's either they have it or they don't. You either select for it or you select against it. Polygenic traits, it's all about the intensity and understanding that. That's why I think people get more in trouble because of the polygenic traits, in that they think they can fix those kind of traits by adding new blood. We say it all the time. Polygenic traits are never improved by adding and fusing new blood. You're only starting over.
Or, Kenny, they think they can equal it out. Say they're wanting to improve station. So they take an extremely high, tall rooster and a medium size to get medium high. Or if they want the tail lower, they breed a lower tail bird that's way down, extremities. I see that a lot.
Breeding to extremes is a tempting thing to do for most breeders, rather than just find the birds that are the closest where they should be and just breed those.
Because what happens, Kenny, if you breed one high, one low?
You get offspring with both.
Yeah.
It works as a trait. They're separate traits.
Doesn't just go in the middle.
Nope.
And there's a lot of other internal traits they think of the same way. If they breed one opposite of each other and they come together, it's going to grade out. But just like Kenny said, you get both.
Yeah. That's where, when you're dealing with contrasting characteristics, it either acts as a separate trait or you're dealing with dominant versus recessive. 9 times out of 10, they don't get what they think they're going to get. They get quite the opposite. And then they wonder what happened. You know what I mean?
It's basically a misconception of breeding.
I used to be one of those in my younger years that bred that way, that I thought that actually worked. I always wondered why I didn't get what I want. I always thought it was just something that I'd done. Once again, I didn't understand genetics and the way they work. The law of genetics, in other words.
Next two, I wouldn't say are the dark side of breeding, but they're really important because people either disregard them or they don't understand them. And they would go so far if they would just consider them and understand them in a way that they could select properly. Mitochondrial DNA and prepotency. Someone who's been breeding for quite a while has an idea that the female is the best. Female is where you need to go. The female is where you need to base your lines on. Female is important, I'll say that, but they don't know why. And if they understood the effects of mitochondrial DNA, in that if I select a hen that is really healthy, active, she's producing really active and healthy offspring, and I keep selecting those kind of offspring and keep moving forward with those, then eventually I'm going to have a very healthy strain. One that's going to grow and develop properly, going to have good resistance to disease, and the quality overall is going to be good. It's not going to affect the overall genetics. It's not going to affect the form and function we were talking about. It's not going to affect the dominant versus recessive. But the overall quality of the offspring are going to be much better when you're selecting hens that have good mitochondrial DNA. How she acts and the offspring that she produces is proof that she has the mitochondrial DNA to move forward. And a lot of people just don't know that. They don't realize that's the hen that they need to select. They don't know why. They go a long ways if they just understood the effects of mitochondrial DNA and how it works. It's the powerhouse of the cell. It's responsible for energy. That energy really dictates how well that family grows, develops, and matures, and reaches their full potential. It's huge. And then the opposite side would be the prepotency. We see that mostly with the male.
Yeah, mitochondrial DNA, the females can pass it on to their offspring.
Yep.
The male get the benefits of it,
Yeah.
but they just can't pass it on to their offspring. So that's what makes the hen more important
Good point.
to us. Me and Kenny's always said, and we found this by just talking to each other, out of all the lines that I've got, they're all hen lines except for 3. I got 3 cock lines and the rest are hen lines. So that shows you the importance of a hen right there.
I'm down to one family with the male line. One of my lines is male, the rest are all females. And I don't want to get too much into the next ones here, which would be meiosis and the crossover event, the recombination of genes. We talked about that earlier, but that is something that if you're even thinking about infusing new blood or you're outcrossing all the time and you're wondering what the effects of that is going to be and whether it's beneficial or not, study meiosis. Now, the only problem is if you go into meiosis not understanding what to look for, You go so deep into it, you might not understand what they're trying to tell you. That's one thing I've been really good at, is taking material like that and simplifying it so that you can understand it and use it. But once you understand meiosis, you understand gene flow, genetic drift, you'll never add outside blood ever again.
Just the negatives of it will stop you from doing it. Not only the benefits, but just the negatives alone will stop you from doing it.
Well, it's not going to get you what you think you're going to get. It's not
No.
producing the offspring you think you're getting. It's quite the opposite. So it's misleading.
It proves that hybrid vigor cannot be passed on. It's not a passable trait, hybrid vigor. Unless you're breeding the exact parents over and over again, and then still yet, if you're breeding the same nick that you're getting out of good hybrid vigor, out of crosses, something happens to one of those parents.
Yeah.
It's gone. And it's going to be at different levels each breeding. You're going to have higher intensity of it this breeding, better offsprings this time on a percentage level. So it's not going to be consistent.
The results you get from hybrid vigor versus fixation, depending on the offspring that you're starting with and how you do it, can vary. But if you're starting with really good birds and you're producing them and breeding them properly, fixation is actually better overall. Whereas hybrid vigor seems better, but it's misleading and temporary. So whenever you're breeding two animals together that are unrelated, then you basically got hybridization. Whenever you start going further than that, which seems to be the case for most people because they're always adding outside blood, thinking that they're refreshing their blood, they're improving them as they go. You go to a 3-way, 4-way, or more cross, now we're talking about mongrelization. They got so many genes, so many different contrasting characteristics inside them. They got the detrimental defects, they've got the deleterious genes, they've got the lethal genes. And then sometimes you don't know what's in there because all you're dealing with is the phenotype. That genotype is a mystery, and you're not going to know what's in the phenotype until you're breeding them and start producing offspring. Crossbreeding, outcrossing, and fusion are so accepted these days with chicken breeders, dog breeders, you name it, that I just cringe when I hear it. When someone is promoting that kind of thing, they're not breeders. They're acting like breeders. They act like authorities. As soon as you start talking about outcrossing or crossbreeding or infusion, I already know you don't know what you're talking about. And you shouldn't be teaching.
You can watch it, Kenny. These 2 or 3 years, they've got one strain that they're bragging about, and then that strain goes away. Something else comes in, then they're bragging on this one for 2 or 3 years, and then there's another strain comes in. Every 3 or 4 years, it's different bird. You never see the same birds on their yard.
I hear them say, your animals, you breed them to whoever you want. All you need to do is breed to the offspring that look the best. Just keep doing that. Best of the best. So that's their method.
Best of the best doesn't work. Now, let me rephrase
It's a
that.
very short-term success.
Best of best works in a good program. In the Founders Program, best of the best works after a certain period. But it doesn't work outside of that.
When I'm breeding a father to one of his daughters, I'm breeding that father to his best daughter. I'm breeding best of the best. That could be subjective, but what we're talking about is when you're adding new blood all the time.
Yeah.
You just got a bunch of animals, a bunch of birds on your farm, and you're just saying,
That
okay,
never works.
I don't know how they're related. I don't know if they're related at all. I just know that I like that cock, I like that hen, breed best of the best. Very temporary. Unless that's your seed fowl or your seed animals, that's a different story because that's what you're starting with. I do believe that you can start with anything as long as they don't have some serious issues and they match each other. But when you're just breeding whatever to whatever just because you think they're the best, very temporary.
The best of the best in that scenario, what you just talked about, Kenny, is they're not even keeping it to the same bloodline. They're doing it outside of like a gray to what we call a hatch or a sweater to an azel. Best of the best. If that one's good, this one's good, breed them together.
The next one, and this is a dark side of breeding to me, would be worming or overworming. Worming programs, vaccination programs. I'm okay with vaccinations if you have a serious problem with a certain disease within your area that you need to protect your birds because they're susceptible and some diseases are scary. Then I'm okay with that. But just to vaccinate for everything, just to be safe, no, I'm not into that. But worming, man, I still hear it. Worm every 2 weeks. Worm once a month. Worm whether you see worms or not. They got to be clear of all your worms. They need those worms in them. You just don't want them infested. And the only way they're not going to be infested is if they build some kind of a resistance and immunity to them. And the only way they're going to do that is if they have exposure to the worms. That means they have to have some worms in them. So you don't want to kill all the worms. You want to just keep it manageable. I could say, okay, maybe worm twice a year, whatever. But don't double worm them. Don't worm them and then 2 weeks later worm them again. If you want to just knock the numbers down, I can live with that. But to do one where you worm and then a week later worm again and a week later worm again, no, we don't want to kill all of them. We need some worms in them.
If you're going to worm, do it at least 6 months to a year. That is so hard on their liver, their kidney. And if you're using ivermectin drugs to worm with, you will destroy their kidneys, their liver, every organ in their body, because it's very invasive on organs.
I hear dog breeders talking about the same thing, that they're worming all the time. I was actually talking to a dog breeder and said he don't worm his animals. He never worms them.
The dogs we got right now, I couldn't tell you the last time I wormed them. Couldn't tell you. And they're like 12 to 15 years old.
Yeah.
And they're fat, they're healthy, never see no worms, never have no problem with them. They're outside, inside. The cats are coming and going. Never have a problem with them. Our cats, same thing. Never worm them.
So I got a question for you. First of all, I got a question for Frank, because Frank deals more with humidity than we do. He has more rain. He has a lot of night crawlers on his yard, and he has his chickens that are free ranging. So the reason why I'm asking you this question and bringing up this scenario is you have people that live in the tropics where they have a lot of humidity and a lot of rain and a lot of parasites. Would it be different for them because they have more of the parasites available to their chickens?
The thing about it is there's other ways to worm chickens besides these. Okay, it's like Dr. Gordo talked about. Don't use atomic bomb when you can use a firecracker, okay? A lot of people jumped on me and said, you never worm your birds? Yeah, I do, but I don't give them the atomic bomb of it. I use all natural stuff to do it, but it doesn't kill all the worms that's in them, okay? There's other ways of doing it besides doing it the harsh, strict way. But husbandry, keeping your farm clean, good farm management will take you a long ways. Keeping the flies down, like where I've got the night crawlers, those right there is going to be infected with tapeworms, and because they eat the actual eggs that's been laid. So a lot of the free ranging birds do get that. Now what I do is I do them one time when I catch them off the free range. I take care of them one time when I put them in the pen. If they don't show any more signs after that, I'm not worming them until they tell me they need to be wormed. That's it. And that's not with a real harsh wormer that you see the worm pills out there. I've got 3 different ones that I use, and all of them natural. It's nothing harsh on them whatsoever. One of them is walnut tincture that I use. The old people back in the 1800s used to use that for internal parasites. They'd make it up and drink it, and it would kill all the internal parasites in them. And I use the same thing on my chickens. Where you and Kenny, I think you really got it good out there where it's so dry.
Yeah,
and you don't have that humidity. You don't have all that rainfall. It's not a incubation ground, so to speak. Out here, the soil is so rich, especially with the tapeworms. Those eggs can lay there for up to a year in the climates, and still be, you can pick them up.
If their immune system's good, their body can fight it.
Yeah, it can. But what are you going to do when you get in a harsh smoke when their immune system is not as strong as it is? That's when you have problems.
To me, that's a second point.
That's when you have
if they
issues.
can't handle the mold,
Yeah.
and other things happen, I cull them.
Yeah.
So
that's what it is. But it's everything into itself. You could bring your birds here, Kenny, and I guarantee you'd have problems with parasites with them.
I'm sure there's a lot of things that have problems with on your place, just because it's
That's
a
what I'm
different
saying.
area.
Yeah. The resistance, the bird's immune system is a must. I was talking to a buddy of this the other day. You've got to have resistant birds that can fight the diseases that's in their environment. Not keep bringing it in, but in their environment.
And they can only build that resistance if they have exposure to it. And if my birds go to your farm,
exactly.
they didn't have exposure to it. That's what
Every yard has disease.
Yep.
Every yard has disease. Kenny's has, mine has. But the thing about it is, where we're not bringing birds in on daily, weekly, monthly basis, we're not bringing new diseases in. So therefore, the diseases that's already there, they become resistant. I could bring one of my birds to Kenny's, and Kenny may say, hey, my birds is getting sick. They're doing this, they're doing that. I might get one from Kenny's and bring it to my place and say, hey, my birds are getting sick. That's the reason we recommend everybody quarantine their birds if it's a new bird.
We had a member who loaned a bird out. The guy gave the bird back to him. I don't remember how much time had lapsed. He brought it on his farm. He pretty much lost all his birds because of it. Had him test it, figure out what it was. It came from that one bird. Killed all his birds. So that's how dangerous it is to bring in new birds, or bring in new birds or birds that have been off your farm and exposed to other things.
Well, I've always said there's no one bird worth your whole flock.
That's right.
It's just not worth it.
I'm seeing in the chat room that there are a lot of natural wormers that you can use. Garlic, I think it was.
I've been taught through all my classes that anything in the onion family is poisonous to chickens, and that includes garlic. But on the internet, they say well, it's good for digestion, it's good for the absorption of the nutrients and whatnot. But I was taught that anything in the onion family is very toxic poison to a chicken, and garlic is in the onion family.
We were talking about my pepper trees and how I use it for litter. Yeah. Okay.
It said the same thing.
I know so many people sent me emails or messages with the links to places that said that pepper trees are poisonous to chickens. I've been doing it for years.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and I told you that's the reason you don't have worms in your chickens, Kenny. I'm telling you,
it may be
because if they're eating that, that'll kill any parasite that's in that chicken. I'm telling you.
And cross B uses acorns. Yeah. And then what about grit?
Grit's it's just good for chewing up the food.
Yeah, but the thing about it is it goes into the gizzard. It stays there for 2 weeks before they expel it. So it's once in, once out. So it's not like in there going real slow, pushing everything out.
Well, like Dr. Guy already says, it goes in there. It chews up the food. Little by little, it gets smaller and smaller until it's powdered, then it's passed through. By the time it gets to the intestinal tract, there's nothing there. There's nothing that would affect it at all. He said the only way it would affect it is if you soaked it in, what's that powder? It's like glass. What do they call it?
Diatomaceous
earth. He said if you soak it in that, maybe it would do something. But grit by itself has no properties as far as killing worms and stuff.
I'm glad you mentioned that. There was a buddy of mine. He thought he had a disease in his chickens. I went to his place and looked at them. And I'm always leery when I go to a place they're thinking of disease because I don't want to take nothing back. Yeah. So I bagged my legs up and everything, walked out there, was looking at his chicken. And, man, they were just emaciated. They were so poor and just skeletons. Yeah, and there was pale and they was pooping blood, and I thought first worms. I walked around his house there and we was looking around. I walked around the side of the house there and he had a window up along the side of it, and one of his grandsons had shot it and busted it with a BB gun. Those chickens was eating that glass. We cut one of them open that had died and hits gizzard, and the whole digestive system was eroded with glass.
My God, really?
Impacted with glass, yeah. And another guy was telling me he had little tacks, little bitty like floor tacks, and they was eating those, and it done the same way. So if you guys got anything glass or anything sharp out, they will eat it, and it will harm them.
The next one is the use and misuse of medications and supplements. I did a short for our YouTube page that we took off one of our other shows, and I was thinking about what we said, and that a lot of people are using medications, think that they need it and they need to rely on it and they can't live without it. And it was something we said that 200 years ago, we didn't have medications or antibiotics. How did the birds survive then? Why do people think that they need these things to survive? If they would just cut loose of them and start breeding to the healthy, get rid of the sick, eventually they don't need these things. I haven't used medications and I can't tell you how long. Like antibiotics since that day that Tony threw them in the trash can. Well, that was a long time ago.
It's been close to 10 years for me. And I promise you guys, I may get a sick chicken from time to time. What's wrong with it? I don't know. I don't want to know. But I'll take it and I'll burn the body and I'm done with it. But I very seldom ever get a sick chicken whatsoever. And I don't use no type medications whatsoever.
Sick chicken is a weak link. I do not want to breed to that. I don't want that on my farm. I haven't had a sick chicken forever.
Sickness to me is the worst defect that we can have in a chicken. Yeah. That's how I see it.
That's one of my mentors told me, I think it was Bob, was that the worst defect of all is poor health. And never left me. So, wow, that's good.
Yep.
Another dark side of breeding is the misunderstanding of defects. Everybody thinks that, oh, that defect's not a big deal. I'll deal with that later. And then they breed to it, don't realize why 3 or 4 generations, all the birds have the same defect. So first of all, you need to understand which defects exist. Because there's a lot of people that are yard blind. They could look at a bird all day long and not see the defect. On the website, we have 88, almost 90 defects that we list and talk about and show what to do about. So understand the defects that exist and know how to breed them when that's all you got.
Some of them you can get away from, some you can't.
Yeah. If you have a bird with a defect and it's all you have, the only thing you have to make sure is don't breed to another bird with the same defect. And then you can work around it. It'll take some time. You'll have to do some culling. The big taboo word, you're going to have to do some culling along the way, but eventually you'll get past it if you're willing to do the culling that needs to take place.
Yard blind really scares me, guys. It really does, because one day I was walking through my yard and I looked, and one of the stags that I had bred had molted out, his first molt. One of his wings was snow white and the rest of him was a light red. And that one wing, the pad, the whole wing was white. And I walked by and he turned and I saw that wing and I was devastated. And Amanda's, why you all tore up about that? You see it, you know it's there, you can deal with it. It's not no big deal. I said, yeah. But if I miss that, what else am I missing? Is there defects on my chickens? Is there something I need to address? So I went around, I pulled every bird out that week and looked them over real good, lift their wings up, look at them and everything, because I was afraid it was something that I'd miss.
Yeah.
And it can happen. And you can get down and not be on your toes, and it can actually happen to be yard blind. You can see other people's chickens' faults, but in your own yard, you can be looking right over them, not even see it.
Yeah. I did a segment with Brian Reeder on progressive white, the white that shows up in the wings and the tail. And he was saying that in some ways it looks nice. He hates it, actually. But yeah, it's expressing white in the feathers, but that white is connected to a lot of other genotype features, not just the phenotype. It could be affecting organs, all kinds of stuff. The more progressive white you have in the family, the more problems you're going to have with that family.
Now, that's progressive white, not white.
I'm talking about birds with white in the tail, white in the wings, things like that.
White in the hackles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He says, breed away from that. Get away from that as fast as much as you can. Opened my eyes when we talked about it. I don't know if that's out on the website yet or not.
I don't think it is yet.
I have a couple more episodes to edit that I did with Brian, so those will be on the website pretty soon. But that was a big one. That really woke me up. I want to make a whole segment just on that one. Matter of fact, I want to get Brian on the show again just to talk about that. That was so interesting.
I've never seen the effects of that, though. He knows what he's talking about, but I've never, because you're talking about this year, and I've never ever seen the effects of those birds. I'd
like to get him on the show and really go deep into that. I don't raise birds like that. I've always got rid of the birds that showed white.
In your line, you don't want no white in them. They shouldn't have white in them.
There was one more thing I wanted to talk about. I call this the dark side because there's such a misunderstanding that everybody wants to blend them all into one, and they're actually very separate. They should be dealt and selected for separately, and that's station versus carriage and conformation versus type. They're the structure of the bird, but they all should be considered separately. And so a lot of people look at station and carriage. Where's that one thing? God. Do I have that here? Here it is. I haven't seen it in a while, but this is something that was going around. Everybody was talking about this is how the conformation and the station of American game should be, and this is how you determine their conformation and station. It could be argued it could be parts of conformation, but it's the carriage of the bird. Now, the bottom one, look at every one of those birds on the bottom have low station, but they're all centered under the bird. We're not changing the carriage of the bird. Exactly. Then you got the ones on the top that are extremely high. It's not changing the carriage of the bird either.
The joint's still in the middle of the bird.
Yeah, the legs are centered under the bird like it needs to be.
Yeah.
That's just the difference between high, medium, and low station. So why they thought that, I don't know. But that's confusing people like you wouldn't believe.
That chart has been taught.
That's too bad. So station is the length of the leg and the comparison between the thigh and the shank. You got the carriage as the overall angle. So that's the way the bird holds himself. And then you got conformation, which is all the parts in its proper places and proportions. That's completely different. Then you have the type, which is the overall shape of the bird, the outline of the bird. That determines the breed itself. So if you look at those things separately, you can select better. And I call it the dark side of breeding because everybody wants to take all four of these and they want to blend them into one, thinking it's all one thing. And I don't. I think you'd understand how to select better and understand the bird better if you understood all four of them separately.
And this day and time, the taller they are, the better they are.
Is that still something they're doing? I haven't heard it in a while.
Oh, it's caught on. It's a badge of honor. The taller the bird, they think it's a badge of honor, that it's a good thing.
You know what? I'm not online much anymore. I'm rarely on social media, so maybe that's why I'm not hearing it.
It's huge in the Philippines, but there's a couple of big breeders coming out against it in the Philippines, even the extra tall station, and saying, no, medium high is where you need to be. That's where the birds need to be, is medium high.
The other one is peddlers. And nowadays we have chicken peddlers, information peddlers, medication and supplement peddlers. We have all sorts of peddlers out there. And they're really just screwing people's minds up to the point when they don't know whether they're coming or going, where they get the information. A lot of people don't even know about us. And there may be some other teachers out there they just don't know about that could give them the information that they need to move forward and do well. But they've run into these people that are considered authorities, and they just mess them up with all this poor information. And then sometimes they know better, but they're still teaching it wrong. It's like us. We go against the grain. Everything we teach is much different than what most people think and what they've been taught all these years. And a lot of people don't want to go there because they know the impact they're going to get. They know the response or the feedback they're going to get is not going to be good. So they'd rather teach it wrong just so that they get the attention.
Yeah, but are we really actually going against the grain? We're getting back to nature's way and the true science of things.
We are, because this is not what they've heard all this time. This is new to them. This is the proper way, but they never heard it before. So it goes against everything they know.
Once again, we're getting back to they was told something, but they didn't do the research on it to see if it was a fact. I've said it a million times. Everybody's got opinions. I have opinions. Everybody has opinions. But opinions are not facts. Totally apples and oranges.
So they're encouraged to use medications when they shouldn't. They're encouraged to use supplements when they don't need it. They're encouraged to buy birds that aren't good representatives of the breed, are sick a lot of times. And then they're just passing just poor information in general. It's sometimes hard to get through people and teach them the right way when they got this stuff so ingrained in them. You can just feel it, you know what I mean? And it's why I don't contribute to other people's pages, because I don't feel those people are ready to hear what I got to teach them. And I think if they are, then they'll find me. And I'm a firm believer that when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. I just go by that. I just hope when they find me, they just need an open mind, and I'm going to teach them a whole new way. It's nothing they've ever heard before. I can tell you that.
A lot of them now think, whether they're new to it or not, and some of it's been in it for a while, they think as soon as the chicks are hatched, first water they drink has to be full of LS50 antibiotics. And them not even sick. It's a preventative. They think they have to give them medicine to keep them healthy, to keep them from getting sick. They don't know that just good food, nutrition, and good clean water can take a bird a long ways. Medication just bogs them down and destroys the immune system.
Nancy, I'm pretty much done. Is there any questions we can answer before we get off?
Would you get a better outcome if you take two pure families and breed them together that have the same standards? Meaning you have two purebred black-breasted reds, okay? You breed them together, you're going to get a better version than if you would a black-breasted red from your farm and a black-breasted red from another farm.
Hybrids. You're going to get more hybrid vigor from a true inbred family than you will just two crosses.
And the more traits they share, the better. You're going to get the benefits of polygenic inheritance, quantitative inheritance. The more traits they share, the better they're going to be. The more contrasting characteristics they have, the more problems you're going to have. The more issues, the more variation you're going to have. So the closer they are to the proper breed variety, the better they'll be.
And basically, it's what you've also said that you can do. If you have to crossbreed of anything, do it within your own family, your own farm.
Oh, okay. So we're talking about
right?
recumbent reciprocal selection. So if he's looking to produce really good hybrid birds, then you'd get a better result if you have two pure families and you bred those together. I would just say don't breed those hybrids. Anything else, Nancy?
No, that's pretty much it.
Wow. Hardly any questions. That's funny. We either put them asleep or...
No, we actually gained people.
We did.
Yeah, we gained people.
We did. I am seeing some new people in here that I hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
And I really want to welcome you in here.
Okay. Anything you guys want to say before I wrap it up?
Back to worming. What are the worms that they get in the crop?
Gape worms.
They call them gape worms, gasp worms,
Yeah.
but gape worms is the right scenario for it.
Would the grit help with that?
No, I don't think so.
No.
So why does that happen? And what do you do to get rid of it?
Ivermectin,
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but that's about the only way you can get rid of them.
Yeah. Anything that sucks blood. Ivermectin will get anything that sucks blood.
They attach to the trachea of the bird's neck. They can go to the actual tubes of the lungs, attach yourself to it, and the bird will go around and yawning constantly because it's aggravating the throat.
It's not that common, though.
It's terrible here.
Really?
I don't know if it's the environment, but it is awful. Here in the southern part, they're terrible. Now, I don't have a problem with them myself, but I've got a lot of people around me they've had. But yeah, Kenny's hit the nail on the head. Just because they yawn doesn't mean they've got worms. But if you take that bird, open his mouth up and put your finger down just barely in his throat and pull it open and look down in it, you can see them actually attached to it, the actual parasite.
Yeah.
And what does it come from? Is it a particular bug?
No, it's just like anything else. The eggs, they hatch inside. The bird excretes the eggs. They eat off the ground. They pick them up, go back in a hatch. And they come back into the throat again, just like any other parasite they would pick up. It has come from another infected bird.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
like
originally,
anything
does it come from a bug, or what does it originally come from? A worm?
It's just what it is, a worm, yeah. It's a round worm or a tapeworm or any other parasite.
Just so you know, I did a show with Peter Brown on internal parasites. That's on YouTube right now. So if you're curious about worms, internal parasites, check that one out before I put it on the website, or it's exclusive to the members. It's there now. Take advantage of it.
Nasty looking things.
Yeah. They're shaped like a Y. They're actually a male and female.
Yeah, and the ones in this area, they're red like an earthworm, the color of it. Almost the color of the throat.
Oh my gosh.
Nasty little creatures.
Okay, let me ask this question. Would a couple of them be good because it's cleaning out the crop?
No.
None of it's ever good because they're sucking the blood. Yeah.
They're taking nutrients from your bird and also preying on your bird's body too. So yeah, it's not.
Yeah, and that's something I don't know is whether the birds can build immunity or resistance to those type of worms. I have no idea. I'd have to talk to Peter about that.
I think they can. I think any parasite.
Okay.
I think they can any parasite.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, with tapeworms, is a little bit different. If you just got one tapeworm can wreak havoc. And a lot of times, what we've got in our chicken yards, dogs. What's dogs bad for? Tapeworms. And then the chickens pick them up. Yeah.
I know somebody in the chat room was talking about mosquitoes gives their dogs parasites.
Heartworms. And then once they get heartworms, you can't treat them for heartworms. They just have to, what happens? Because if you give them medicine for it, they die and it clogs the arteries to the hearts up and kills the host. So once they get them, before they give you medication now, they actually have to be tested for heartworms before they'll give you medication for it.
Wow.
Okay. So make sure to join the Breeders' Academy. The registration page is open right now. Just go to www.breedersacademy.com. You'll see a tab to become a member. I really appreciate you guys joining me. I'm glad Frank was able to make it. I wasn't so sure because he was sick. He looks a lot better today. And I'm glad because I'm looking forward to you coming in a week to California. And I want to appreciate you guys for joining us today.
Maybe, now I can't make any promises, guys, but maybe I can convince these two to go live for a few minutes while we do our little excursion in a town nearby.
Maybe after a few beers.
You would have to get I won't even say it. Anyway, yeah, next weekend is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so
having those guys down
unless
here.
you can talk us into doing something just for a little while, we'll be at the park. We might have to find a quiet place. I don't know. We'll think of something, talk to Frank, see what we can do. Other than that, we probably won't have a show. But if I do, look for it because I probably won't have a banner for it. It'll be spontaneous.
It's to be a spontaneous hop on.
If we don't do a show, we'll have you in some videos anyway. So there you go. Remember.
Okay. So thanks a lot. We'll see you guys next week. Oh, no. In 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah. 2 weeks. Yeah. See you in 2 weeks, guys.
Hold on. Let me get this off of here.
Okay. Ready?
All right, guys. Have a good weekend.
Go. Okay. Thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you again for joining us on the Bred to Perfection podcast show. This show was brought to you by the Breeders' Academy, where by becoming a member, you can increase your knowledge of breeding, advance your skills as a breeder, and take you and your fowl to the next level.
We can also show you how to create a strain from hybrid crosses or mongrel flocks, and help you to create, maintain, and improve your present strains. We urge you to check it out. You have nothing to lose, and you can cancel anytime.
To join us at the Breeders' Academy membership website, go to www.breedersacademy.com.
Best of all, I'll be there to help you every step of the way.
While you're checking out the Breeders' Academy, make sure to sign up for our newsletter, The Breeders' Bulletin. We provide a lot of free bonus materials and some great information that will take you and your fowl to the next level. Well, that's it for now.
We hope you join us next time for another episode of Bred to Perfection. We'll see you later.
Bye. Welcome to the after show. This is the part of the show that doesn't exist. What happens in the after show stays in the after show. If you've mentioned to your friends about the after show, which happens from time to time, no worries. Just tell them not to let out our little secret area of the show. Enjoy!
There's a dark side to breeding, and you just got to accept that. And inbreeding and culling are, I would say, the two sides of that coin, the dark sides of that coin.
What I tell them is, Kenny, I said, okay, I know you've got issues with inbreeding, but can you answer this one question for me? And they're like, what? I said, do coyotes and wolves walk up to their sister and say, excuse me, get out of the way. I need to get to this other female. You're my sister.
Yeah.
They breed, they produce offspring, and either the ones that's worthy make it, and the ones that's not worthy that shouldn't be bred back, Mother Nature takes care of them. That's how selective breeding works. The same principle.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a revelation to some, is that what we do happens in the wild, the way we breed them. Look at the way the Founders Program is set up. And I talk about this, and I know it's going to go over some people's head. Not because they're not getting it, it's because they don't think they need it. And that is, when you understand evolutionary biology, you understand the mechanisms of evolution, you understand why the Founders Program is set up the way it is. And one of the main mechanisms is genetic drift and the Founders effect. And that's why I call it the Founders Program, because it simulates Mother Nature very closely. And when you can understand that, when you look at genetic drift, you look at gene flow, you look at the bottlenecking effect, you look at natural selection, over production of offspring, that's when we say you hatch as many chicks as you can manage and afford. Not all of them are going to live in the wild. Same with us. We're going to hatch as many chicks as we can manage and afford. Out of that, select the best ones. We're going to cull some of them. We're going to get rid of the others. It's the same thing. So if you look at natural selection, all the mechanisms of that, it's the same thing we're doing when we're selectively breeding and creating a family. So get used to that. Now, here's the nice thing. You don't have to go and learn this on your own. We have all this inside the Breeders' Academy. It's all sitting there waiting for you to read, check out, watch the videos, the whole bit. And you're going to get a better understanding. You're going to become a breeder. You're not just going to create a family and improve a family. You're actually going to become a breeder. You're going to have a better understanding of the breeding process, the principles of breeding. It's going to change your world. You're never going to look at breeding the same way again.
It changes your mind as far as that. And here's the thing about it. Rather than old wives' tales and superstitions and witchcraft, all that other stuff they throw in there for it, it's science backed. You look at Kenny's birds, you look at my birds, it truly works, but it's not going to do it itself. You've got to roll your sleeves up and actually do it and understand it. If you do it like it says, like it's written out, you're not going to have a problem with it. Your birds is going to be better for it. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah. One of the things we were talking about too was, and think about this, Frank, everybody wants to use foundation bloodlines. I have a bloodline. I have a foundation line, but they use crossbreeding. They use outcrossing. Even if they bred their family pure for 10 years, the minute they do the outcross or the cross, they no longer have a bloodline or a foundation line. So they use that word, bloodline and foundation line, loosely. Or not loosely, but they don't understand what they're saying. How can you have a bloodline when you're bringing in new blood all the time? That's not a bloodline. That's far from a bloodline.
What people need to understand, and I think this is pretty much oranges and apples, okay? But they have to look at it this way. Anybody can make hybrids. Yeah. Anybody can make a good-looking hybrid. You take somebody their first year, give them two non-related individuals, let them breed them together, and they're going to get some really good chickens out. They're going to get some bad, they're going to get some mediocre, but still going to get some good chickens. But for somebody to breed a true pair of trait strain that's inbred and make them good, that's a different aspect. This is how I see it. A replicator, just raising chickens, and a breeder. There's not a fine line in between. There's a huge line in between.
Yeah. Just think of it this way. Hybrid vigor can hide a lot of things. It can make birds look better than they really are. And it gives you the wrong indication of how your bloodline's doing. But it's not inheritable, and it's not passed to the next generation. That hybrid animal that you produce from the cross or the outcross is the product. That's as far as it goes. It may be an outstanding animal. It may be way better than what the parents were, but you can't do anything with that. You cannot use that to improve your bloodline or your foundation line. If you are enjoying the show and would like to learn more, I encourage you to join me at the Breeders' Academy. By becoming a member, I can help you to achieve the competitive advantage.